Hey, it's First Frontier Forward. It's Rob Z and Hannah Baker's with us. Hanny Bakes, what's happening?
Hi, everybody.
Thanks for being here. We want to talk to you today because if you don't know who Hannah Baker is, you're on YouTube and Instagram. What's your YouTube number up to now as far as subscribers goes?
We're right under 80,000. We might have already hit 80,000. I'm not sure. We're somewhere right in that general area, 80,000
That is so awesome. So
subscribers.
around 80,000 followers on YouTube, and you make videos from your house, from your home, in your bedroom, and you put them online. And I think
hmm
right now, with the world that we're living in quarantine, a lot of people have been wanting to do this kind of thing for a long time, whether for themselves or for their business. And they either haven't had the time to or just didn't have the know how. So, one of the questions I wanted to hit you with right off the bat was if somebody wanted to do this at home in an inexpensive way, the way that you have your setup, the way you do your thing, how could they do that? Like set up something right now today and have it running to promote themselves or to promote their business from their house?
So I believe like if you're making videos, if that's what you're focusing on, I mean, photography is completely different. You just need a camera and an idea. But if you're planning to make video, I would say the first thing you can use your iPhone to film. If say you don't want to splurge on a nicer camera, you can use your iPhone. The necessities would probably be to make your life a little bit easier. It would be like a nice tripod just to hold your iPhone up, and then you can get a nice angle, and you can use natural lighting there. I don't think that that is like a requirement. I actually mix artificial lighting with natural lighting. Right now you're only seeing natural lighting on my iPhone, and it's great. So I would say skip the lighting, get a tripod, use your iPhone, and just make it work. You really don't need anything. Like you could set up a bunch of books and put your iPhone right on top of it and turn it around and make sure you have a good angle and film it that way. And then upload that to your computer and then upload that to YouTube from there. So it is not obviously the most convenient method. There's ways to make it more convenient, but if you want to go the inexpensive route, you just need to use your phone and you just gotta begin. The medium route I would say would be get a tripod, maybe I have a Sony A5100 that is like maybe $400, and I still use it to this day. I've used it for years. And then a ring light, and that's pretty much all you really need. I use a typical like a normal desk that you would see like in any like a college dorm, and I use a vanity mirror just to see what I'm doing, but you don't need anything too crazy. So it's very accessible for everybody.
Yeah, and I'm thinking right now, as you're saying this, right, there's a lot of salons out there, a lot of fashion shops, that sort of thing, that they can't be open right now because our cutoff date is coming up still in a couple of days away. And I feel like they could be doing what you're doing on a local level by like promoting their products. If you're selling clothes, or if you sell makeup, or if you do hair or whatever that might be, you could be making some videos at your house. And I feel like this is the perfect time for people to experiment with these kind of things. And my take always is, when we're in a situation, this is the most extreme version of the situation, but we're in a situation where you have more time and other people are like wondering what to do and not actually doing anything. Just do something. Just do
Right.
something. Give it a shot. Try it out. And like,
hmm
man, this is like the perfect time to do this. What would you say to that? Like, as far as what made you start making videos, and like how did you finally just decide? I'm sure you thought about it for a while before you started. You finally decided, I'm just going to do it. What would you say to somebody who's like on that edge of thinking about that?
Well, I say this all the time. I feel like every time I do any type of, I think I say this every conversation I have about YouTube. I always say, just start somewhere. The first one is not going to be good. And even going back to the equipment that we talked about, there's going to be bumps in the road. You're going to think you're recording and you're not going to be recording, and you're going to have like slip ups. It's just bound to happen, and you learn with time. But there's so many quotes out there like just start it and perfect it. It'll perfect itself along the way, and I believe that is true. When I started, I didn't really have a plan. I just knew I wanted to put something out there that was a good reflection of myself, and then from there I kind of started to like do my research. I mean, I get a lot of questions from people, about equipment or just beginning or engagement or anything, and all those answers, I mean, like they're all over the place, but they're all on the internet. There, you can go to YouTube and type in how to gain followers on blah 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 blah, and you will have thousands, hundreds of thousands of videos, and they're right. You know what I mean? There is, like, the information is out there. So I would say, number one, sit down and decide what, I always tell people, like, what do you feel most comfortable doing? Whether that is talking about whatever it is. It could be talking about cars. It could be talking about whatever. And once you sit down and you say, okay, this is what I feel comfortable talking about, then go from there. Maybe get some type of a filming setup, and then just do it. Like, just put the first piece out there. It's not going to be perfect, but people understand you. The first piece of any artist work is never perfect. So I would say just start.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And I like what you said at the beginning, because it's true. You don't really need anything else. You need your phone, and you need something that's lighting you up in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
It's
and
like,
natural light is free. So
yeah, it's so simple to get started. We overthink these things. And I was just talking to somebody the other day who wanted to start a podcast, and they're showing me this like $1,000 piece of equipment they were going to buy, and all these different things. And I was like, I mean, you can buy it if you want to, go for it. But you're almost, I always use the term, what is the term I use? It's like procrastinating by educating yourself. Okay. So you're just like giving
instead of just
yourself,
starting.
you're like teaching yourself all these things before you've ever done anything. Like, just start doing something. And, obviously you talking about this, you don't have like a physical business that you own. You don't have to worry about opening up, and the whole coronavirus situation doesn't really affect you, as
Right.
far as like you being able to create and do your job. But I feel that way for most businesses, is that this is the best time to create something new, to experiment, to get outside of the box, to do it the way you've seen other people do it on social media. You've watched other people in your industry do it this way. Now it's your chance to start experimenting, whether it's on a local level or on like a national, worldwide level. And I think personally, from watching what you do, are you all over the world? How many people were watching you from other countries? Do you get a lot of messages from people outside of the US?
Well, it actually breaks it down and tells you like percentages, but yeah, I'm all over the world. There's people in Australia, New Zealand, everywhere. It's crazy. So
The
I guess I'm
thought is,
worldwide.
yeah, the thought is like, you might be thinking about, how am I going to keep my local business running? This is a chance for you to even break outside of the local area and to possibly get a following and potentially make money anywhere, at any time with anybody who's on planet
Even
Earth.
more money, you know what I mean? Say your website and your whatever your e-commerce site picks up with, just say you're a salon and you're selling hair products, whatever, and your website picks up, and you could be making just as much money as you are on a normal day in the shop. So
yeah, no doubt. What would you say to somebody who's afraid to get on camera? You and I have talked about this before, but I think if somebody's watching this now for the first time, if they're nervous about getting on camera, they're apprehensive about what they're going to look like or sound like, because that's usually the biggest thing that's holding somebody back.
yeah.
What would you say to that?
I would say, if you are nervous, I feel like it's very natural to be nervous on camera, but it's a lot more comfortable if you're talking about something or doing something that you already feel very like confident and comfortable doing. So that would be my first, like, don't get on there and be something that you're not. It will come across as unnatural. And if I'm being honest, your first piece of content is probably going to come across as unnatural, no matter how genuine it is to yourself anyway, because you're nervous. So like, the more comfortable you are with the actual action that you're doing, or talking about, or the more knowledge you have, you know what I mean? You want to pick something that you're comfortable with, so that like you can ease your way into speaking over like virtually, because that doesn't come in one time. It's something you definitely have to get used to, but it comes easier if you're confident, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if you have good people skills with people, I've been talking to some people about this idea too, is like, if you're really good with your customers and you're really good at your business, and you're good at creating those relationships in person, just try to treat the camera like you're talking to a person that, I mean, obviously doesn't talk back, but just remember, like, normally whenever you're talking into a video camera, you're usually only talking to one person at a time on the other end. It's not like you're talking to a million people at once. It could be a million people, but it's one person at a time watching your
Right.
video. So if you can use that skill, and I think you do this so well, right? It's like when you talk to you off camera, it's kind of like the way you talk on camera, and
Yeah,
that's that
that's what I aim
relationship.
for. It's like I just feel like people always leave comments on my videos saying, "Oh, I feel like I'm with you in person and we're just friends hanging out." And that's I never meant for it to come across that way. I mean, it's great that it comes across that way, but I never like made that like I never tried to make that happen. It's just because I feel like the more relatable you are, the more calm and just like you said, everyday type style, people relate to that, people are drawn into that. And it's like, I watch people that have that certain personality trait and I want to watch them, I want to hear what they're saying, and I feel comfortable. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. And I think it all kind of goes back to just kind of still being yourself. Like if you are somebody that you're not on camera, and then like it's just if you're two completely different people, you're not going to see genuine results. So I try to just keep it as honest and as real as you can be, and it's worked out pretty well for me so far. So
Yeah, and that might not be like the easiest thing to do for some people. You have to get used to that.
right.
Like you said, you got to practice. Just kind of put the work
Hmm.
in and practice doing it. And especially like if you're somebody, if you're a teenager, college student watching this, and or even just an adult watching this who's wanted to make a YouTube channel, who's wanted to start to make content online. Like you said, if you don't know how to get on YouTube, just Google how to start a YouTube channel, and
Yeah.
there's about a billion videos that'll pop up showing you how exactly to start it. And there's no like
Yeah.
one way to do it. There's a bunch of different ways, but there's some things
Right.
that everybody can kind of follow that make sense. Um, so what would you say to somebody who's not a business, who is at home and they're just bored out of their mind? Maybe they're done with school or whatever, and they want to start creating videos that certain are like lifestyle kind of videos like you do. What would be your advice to them? Do you think you could add anything else?
Well, I would say it's funny because just the other day, like I think it was yesterday, one of my really good friends, she's planning on starting a channel, and she's like, she's very personable and like she is comfortable in front of a camera, and she's like, I just feel like I have no motivation. And I think that this is something that is overlooked a ton because we think, oh, it's nothing to sit down in front of a camera and talk. Like people say, that's the dream job, that is the good life. And like on the outside, definitely it looks so easy and so, but it goes a lot deeper, I think, mentally for people, because you don't, it's a mental thing, it honestly is. And whenever, for example, we're quarantined now, it's kind of, you would think, oh yeah, she's going to be putting tons of content out, but it's kind of almost challenging because like I said, I put out my best content. I feel good about the things that I do when I'm being myself. And obviously we are in a very weird state of the world where I feel like we're almost in limbo. So it's hard, number one, to feel like yourself when your whole routine is kind of thrown out of whack, and it's kind of like mentally, you're disoriented. And then from that, it's kind of hard to get on camera and mentally be checked into something. But so I would say my first piece of advice is, I know this is kind of like going backwards, but don't rush it. I don't think you should say, okay, I have this much time, so I'm going to sit down every single day and film a video. You have to like take time for you to be, to be creative, to feel comfortable. It does take time, and it takes like mentally, it takes just some, I don't want to say work, but it does. Like you have to kind of train yourself to think like, okay, even though everything else is crazy and going on and I don't feel like myself, I have to like sit down and put it all, like block it all out and just focus on this for once, which is not an easy thing to do, especially if you have, you get super anxious and things like that. It's not easy. So I know at first when this whole, we went under a lockdown, I assumed, oh, this is going to be such a great time for people in general to make content. I was posting things like, this is your time, just get out there and start. And while I do still feel that way, obviously, I think don't push yourself to the point where you're uncomfortable. I think it's really important that like you still feel like yourself. And if you can keep yourself in, I mean, this is off topic, but if you can keep yourself in some type of routine, I feel like that'll help you mentally, and then therefore you'll feel more refreshed and ready, and like your creative parts of your brain will be ready to put content out. So I actually talked about this not long ago with one of my friends. She's like, you know, this quarantine is really getting to me mentally, and I feel crazy and blah blah blah. And I said, you know, I don't feel that at all, but it's because whenever I first went to YouTube full time, I felt this, like this, the feeling that people have right now where they're just like a completely discombobulated. I felt that probably last September when I went full time on YouTube, because my whole day was just blank. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It was all up to me to fill it in, to say, I'm going to wake up at this time so I can film by this time, and then I can do this. And it definitely takes a lot of self-discipline. And that is also kind of hard to do when the world's in limbo. So I would say don't push yourself to the point where you feel uncomfortable, because it will totally translate like that on camera, but still keep yourself in like a nice routine. And if you feel like, okay, I'm ready and this is a good time to do it, then do it, but don't push yourself to be, I don't know, because sometimes you're just mentally not there yet, and that's okay too. So
That's really
that's
good
what I would.
advice. It's so true. And I think the routine is, we are all creatures of habit, and most of us had a routine, and that
Right,
routine has been totally thrown out the window over the past couple of months. So the fact that you feel like you need to be doing this, and I feel that way too. It's like I want to create more and more content, but my routine's messed up.
right,
So, you know, my son's not going to school, so he's home all day, and it's just like my wife's working more because she's a nurse, and it's like it's a new kind of routine,
right.
and to adjust to that is huge, and to not um to try not to be overwhelmed by it, but try to adjust to it, I think is huge. That's excellent advice, Hannah. Thank you for being on here, really appreciate it. If people want to
Thank you.
find you on Instagram and YouTube, at Hanny Bakes, and that's
Two eyes.
HANNYY.
Yes.
H
We
A
always
N
have to
N.
do two eyes.
Yeah. Anything else you want to throw in?
No, that's all. Just hope everybody's staying sane out there. And yeah, hopefully this ends soon. And thank
Yes.
you to all the essential workers out there too.
No doubt. No doubt. All right, cool. Thank you. See ya.
See ya.